Yes,
Okay.
yes, it has started. Correct, Adaya? Good morning, everyone. My name is Darlene Birch Clark. I would like to welcome you to the presentation on Break the Generational Poverty Cycle, Budget Like a Millionaire. The Economic Development Committee of the Kalamazoo Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta is presenting this informative workshop. Our speaker for this presentation is financial coach, Ms. Kathy Wortham. I would like to take a minute to review the agenda for the workshop. After we introduce the speaker, Ms. Kathy Wortham will give the presentation. And during that time, if you have any questions, you can enter your questions into the chat. Ms. Kathy Wortham may answer a few questions during her presentation. After her presentation is done, we do have a Q&A session where she will answer more questions. After the Q&A session, we would like to submit a evaluation in the chat feature, and so that we can get more feedback from you about the presentation. So at this point, I will turn the presentation over to Sora Penny to introduce the speaker.
Good morning, everyone. Special good morning to Madam President and our guest, and of course our sorors. I would like to share a little background with you on Sora Kathy Wortham. Kathy Wortham became a master financial coach with the goal of serving the needs of individuals who were not taught to handle their finances in a way to ensure wealth building. She believes everyone can make better financial decisions with the right information. In this role, she has worked with clients across the United States to help them meet their financial goals. Kathy is a lifelong resident of Michigan and is a diehard Notre Dame fan. Ooh, sorry about that. Much to the displeasure of her family. A proud 28-year member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, she is committed to her community and has previously served on the board of directors for the YWCA, Susan G. Komen, Kids Moving and Thriving, Family Health Center, and Habitat for Humanity. Currently, she is employed as the Business Operations Director of Mount Zion Baptist Church. In her free time, Kathy enjoys spending time with her grandsons Blake and Landon, reading, playing board games, and traveling. I introduce to you Ms. Kathy Wortham. Thank you.
Good morning. Adaya, are you ready to let me share?
You're all set.
All set, ready to go. Does everybody see the slide presentation? Okay, I want to thank everybody for coming out this Saturday morning to decide that you want to make a change. You didn't have to come, but you did, which tells me that there are currently 21 participants who want to make some type of a life change regarding their finances. Most of the time when we are talking about finances, everybody gets upset and doesn't want to adhere because they don't want to have to make different choices. I'm going to make this light. We're going to laugh a little bit, but at the end of the day, we're going to make a commitment to make a difference. Because if we want to break the cycle, we start now with taking care of our finances. And as the intro was made on my bio, we've not been taught how to handle. Our parents weren't taught how to handle. So we're the generation that can teach those who come behind us how to handle their finances, so they're not reaching ages of retirement and working at Walmart because they have to. They're working at Walmart because they choose to get out of the house. So with that being said, we are going to get started on this journey. If I say something that needs immediate attention, certainly raise your hand, put it in the chat, and we'll address it so that you're able to put the puzzle pieces together and not having to wait till the very end when you might forget that important question. Let's go. So for some reason, it's not wanting, okay. And I've got to move it over because of the way. So when we look at budgeting, we have to really say, and that's not fully on the page, is it? Okay. Wow, I just messed something up.
It was, Sora, did you want to put it in presentation mode or you wanted to?
I want to put it in presentation mode. What did I not do?
Okay, so in the slideshow, or you have to slide your text back over to the right though. Kind of grab that box.
See, this is out so outside.
Okay, right there. When you see like the little 4 arrows, then you can grab the box and slide it. So kind of put your cursor over to the, hover over the text
Or
first.
Kathy, you can do undo twice and it should
Yeah,
put it back for you.
That'd be easier. There we go. Now you can go to, no, don't move it. Don't touch it.
Okay. Tell me what
Undo
to do.
again. Undo.
See, that's why I
Okay.
said we're going to have some laughter, okay, at my expense, and I'm okay with that.
In the on the upper ribbon, the red ribbon where it says slideshow,
Red ribbon that says
at the top of your page, there are different tabs.
slideshow. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yep.
Click that.
Yeah, click that. The other, I think you might have I don't know if you right clicked or left click. There you go. And then from the beginning or from current slide, you can do from current slide. There you go. And it's just, there you go.
See, that's my lesson for today. Now, okay, my good question is, it's still chopping off over on the right-hand side. How do we?
It's not chopped off to me. Is anybody else seeing it chopped off?
No,
Okay,
I can
well,
see the
that's
full
okay,
text.
as long as
We
it's
see the
not
full
for anybody
text.
else. But it is for me, but I still know what I'm saying. So rewind, we are now going to get started on this budget presentation. And so the next question I have is, why budget? Why budget? They say that money talks. When it does, it usually says goodbye. If you don't direct your money and tell it where to go, then believe me, it will find a way to leave you faster than a robber fleeing the police. How many have experienced that? We all know we had $10 on Friday, Saturday morning. I don't know where that $10 went. It's just gone. So that's why we need to budget. A budget just means that we've decided to tell our money where to go with purpose and intent. It's a plan for spending that allows you to manage your money and meet your goals. And it really brings order to your financial life. And that's what we're looking for, order. We don't have the order in our financial life that we really should have at this point in our lives. So budget will help that. And so often people don't like the word budget. So just say I'm doing a spending plan. Just say I'm doing a cash flow if you don't like the B word. Okay, Adaya. Now, how do I get it to go to the next one?
Either push one of your arrows, or if you
And I
hover over
did.
the slide, there should be some arrows that show up at the bottom of your screen as well.
There are.
Okay. You said you did press did you press the right arrow or the down arrow?
Yes, I did.
And what about with your mouse? Do you have a handheld mouse that you can scroll?
I do, but.
There you go.
My mouse.
Whatever you did, you just did it.
Okay. I did it with my mouse.
Okay.
Had to plug it in because often we don't use mice anymore. Mouse. Okay. We budget all the time. Sometimes we can say we're not budgeting, but when we spend aimlessly and the money's gone before the month is up, then we have budgeted. We budget ourselves into a deficit situation. And there are instances where people make enough money to be careless without detrimental results, meaning that I don't need to do certain things because I make enough, but we're still not planning for the future. So that's where some individuals, because of what they make, run into trouble. People who budget or say their budget, putting it in their head, I don't know about most of you, but I can't remember all of the times that I've said I've got it, but then when I go home and I try to remember where I spent it, I don't. So it's so much better to have it on paper. Most of us have had to do something to get into shape physically. Budget is just like that. It's a little uncomfortable at the beginning, but you get good results. It takes a little time, might take up to 3 months to get your budget discipline going, but whatever it takes, it's worth the journey. A budget, when you're budgeting, you must have a goal. A budget without a goal is drudgery. Don't focus on what you're giving up or you can't do. That's the same when we talk about getting in shape physically. Most of us have been on diets. We always get caught up in what I can't have. Same thing with the budget. But if we look at and focus on the discipline of the budget now, it will allow us to do many things in the future. I would encourage you that if you're married, that you get your spouse involved. It doesn't help if one person in the house is working on the budget and the other is still spending freely. Get the whole family involved. It doesn't hurt to teach children the value of budgeting at early ages. We're going to talk about 6 steps to create a budget. Set your financial goal. What is it that you really want to do in regards to your money? Know your monthly income. A lot of people don't even know what they really bring home because they're not budgeting. Calculate your expenses. Plan everything around your goals. If my goal is to take a trip to Dubai, I need to budget for that. And so that's a goal. I'm going to determine how within my budget I can achieve that goal. Factor in fun money. Most people will say, well, why would you do that? Because I need an allowance every week. And if I budget it, then that's my fun money to do whatever I want to do without feeling guilty that I spent some money. So if I budget it, then I can go to Starbucks or I can go to the movies because it was in my budget, in my fun money or my allowance. The other thing that we want to look at here is that stick to your budget. That's really important. Try it for a month, knowing that I'm going to have to adjust it next month. But if I never stick to it, I'm not going to know what works and what doesn't work. I often hear when we're talking about budgeting, immediately people want to come up with challenges. What can I do to help myself get started and stick to it? What can I do to balance my budget and save money? How do I set a monthly budget when my income fluctuates? Income fluctuation happens for individuals who are maybe working on commission or something like that. And we'll address all of these topics. How can I resist temptation to spending? There's something called a 24 or 48-hour rule. If it's not in the budget, then I really need to determine within a 48-hour period, do I really need it? Leave the store, leave whatever it was in the store, go home, think about it, and then decide after 48 hours, is it worth adjusting my budget for that expenditure? Another way that you can resist temptation to spending is I'm looking at what's my hourly rate? How many hours do I have to work to get that item? Often just that alone will dissuade you from making the purchase. If I have to work too many hours, I'm not going to think it's worth it. I see you, Tracy, you're calculating right now. But we have to do those things because those are the things that will help us stay on track. And so we're going to also talk about the best way of tracking our spending. And yes, it's laborious. Yes, you're going to say, I don't want to do that. But trust me, if you write down all of your expenses every day and see where every dollar goes, that's going to help you develop a better budget. When money's tight, how do we do some prioritization? We start looking at the areas that we need to cover first, and we'll have that in a minute. But those are some of the basic challenges that a lot of individuals have to budgeting. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to show you how to have a raise just by doing a budget. So budget will show you how to have more than enough without a raise. If there's anybody who's on this workshop right now listening who doesn't need a raise, then maybe this isn't for you. But I want to feel that I have a raise. So let's get started. Any questions up to this point?
Yes. Can we get copies of the slides?
Oh, I don't know yet.
Kathy,
Yes, Marcy.
thank you.
So let's get started. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to get into the details of what your budget would look like. So first of all, we want to know, what are your spending habits? And so what you need to do is write down, make a list of all of your monthly expenses. And everybody has different, there's no one size fits all, because we all have different lives. So these are just some basic ones, because I don't have child expenses until my grands come for the summer, but other people have them every month. And so I just have to budget differently in the summer months because they're here. And so if we're looking at that, what are my spending habits? So what I will provide to everybody is a sheet, and you just start writing down your expenses. So every day you write down whatever you spent. So you put the date, you put whether you spent cash, check, ATM, debit card, whatever you did. Was it food? Was it housing? Was it auto? Was it personal, entertainment, savings? And that's why you look at where your expenses are and make a list, because this is going to help you build your budget. So for example, this morning, if I was one of those individuals who drank that flavored water, I might have $3.26, $8.95 under food, saying that, and then I would put, okay, Starbucks. So then at the end of the day, whatever I started out with financially in terms of in my wallet as cash or in my account, I should be able to come back to every penny that's on this sheet. And so if I'm looking at that, every penny, then I'm going to get an idea of where my money's really going. And the biggest area that people spend money and they don't realize how much is in the food category. That throws off the majority of budgets because we're not adding it. But even though, and you can do this and set it up so that's an Excel spreadsheet, have it do its calculations for you, but you'll be surprised what you're spending and not really aware of it until you write it down. There's 4 walls when we talk about the budget that need to be covered, and this is to protect your family. Really need to make sure that my house expenses are covered, utilities included. I won't necessarily say I need to cover cable and all of those extras, but I do need to cover rent, mortgage, utilities, water, lights, all of those encompassed. Food, I need to make sure that my family's able to eat. So when I'm doing my budget, these are some of the things that I want to make sure I'm prioritizing. Basic clothing. I don't think that we need to really advertise for somebody who has more money in the bank than we do. So that's why we say basic clothing. You know, nice, clean, but I don't need to have a label on me all the time. Transportation. I need to get to work. So transportation recently has moved up into the 4 walls that we call them. And that's because a lot of areas do not have public transportation. So individuals need transportation, but I don't need to have more car than I have house. These are 8 words that I want everybody to hone in on and really practice them. The 8 words are: use what you have, buy what you need. That means before I go to the grocery store, I need to check the cupboards to see what I have. I don't need to have 8 bottles of dressing because I didn't look to see that I already had some in the cupboard. And that's what we often do. We go to the store without a list. And so as I'm getting ready to go to the store, I need to plan, what am I going to do this week? What do we need? And use what I have. With that, you're going to have some money. So this is how we're getting that raise, just by budgeting. The next thing, that slide that we'll see after this, is a sample budget. And what you want to do with your budget is make sure that every dollar that's coming into your house on a monthly basis has a name to leave your house. So we want to give every dollar a name. And we want to make sure that we have a zero-based budget, which means I didn't overspend or I don't have a surplus that doesn't have a name. Because if I have a surplus without a name, then unfortunately, that's money that I'm apt to spend frivolously because it didn't have a name. And so when I give every dollar a name, it works for me, because if somebody comes to me and they say, hey, Kathy, can I borrow $15? I can say, I'm sorry, your name's not in my budget. And that way I'm sticking to my budget and I'm telling them their name wasn't in the budget. So I don't feel bad, because that's my focus, is to balance my budget. So this is our preliminary budget. So this is a couple, and for the month, they have $4,850 of spendable income. So when we look at that spendable income, it's broken out, and every dollar has a name, as you'll see when we get to the bottom. It's an individual who goes to church and they believe in tithing. But if you're going to look at it and you say, well, if they make that kind of money, they're really not tithing, they're just giving an offering, because it's not that 10%, but at least they're doing something. They make other donations to charity. They do believe in getting an emergency fund and having a savings account. And now we're talking about housing expenses. And so the first housing expense is to pay their rent. The next section is I'm looking at utilities and miscellaneous. So they have Netflix and Amazon. They pay $145 a month for telephone, consumers, cable, clothing, groceries, restaurants. So if you break your budget out like this, and most of us have medical co-pays or deductibles, unless you've got a phenomenal insurance package. So we need to budget for those, because I don't know when I'm going to get sick, but I need to have deductible money. And so you might say, well, if I don't use it every month, what do I do with that? Well, I have an allocation sheet that you would use to say, okay, I have $100 now in deductibles because for the last 2 months I didn't go. But then 3 months down the road, I go, and it's going to cost me $200 because my x-ray or my MRI wasn't covered. I had to pay $150. So we have to anticipate those expenses. Gas has gone up. So everybody who budgeted for gas at one rate in January is now budgeting more, because gas has gone up substantially since January. You've got car insurance that you pay monthly. Or if you're in a position to pay it all at once, then you're just setting the money aside on a monthly basis so that when it becomes due in 6 months, I can pay it in full. Car payment, that's your next thing. Then we're looking, okay, we've got credit card debt. If you've got children, you've got expenses for them, medical insurance that you might be paying out of your pocket in terms of your copay. You got personal items. And this is where you'll see there's an allowance. So as I said, there were 2 people in the household. So they get $100 a month for allowance. Entertainment and travel. This is just a simple budget that I put together just to give us an idea that when we look at this, you can see that the expenses equaled the income. Yes, Marcy?
For some reason, it's raising my hand. I'm not doing that. I'm sorry.
Oh, see, I just thought you wanted to talk to me more about getting a copy.
No.
Sorry,
Okay.
Kathy, there is
Yes.
one question in the chat.
Okay.
What is a good target to have for an emergency fund?
Okay, the good target as we're starting off is $1,000. That's the first thing you want to do, is to get $1,000 in your emergency fund. Once you get that 1,000, then we want to look at paying off debt, because it's real difficult to have that concept of saving, but I owe all of this money. So start with 1,000, and then when you're debt free, except for your house, then you build it up to 3 to 6 months of expenses. So in this case, if I know my expenses are $4,800, 3 months worth of that, I need about $15,000 in a fully funded emergency account. Does that answer your question, Madam Chair, Madam Press?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So then, once we do our budget, then one of the things we like to do is, okay, how do I spread out my money so that I'm not trying to pay my full mortgage payment on the first of the, on the last check of the month, which means I can't do anything else. So how can I take the 4 weeks that I get paid in the month and break that out and have certain allocations that are going to be paid under week 1, certain that are going to be paid week 2, week 3, and week 4, knowing that at the end of the month, I've spent my $48.50. And so that's what a budget allocation sheet will give you. It will help you know what you need to do in terms of weekly. I didn't do it all just for the, just to give an idea, but I do have that as a package that I will email out to anybody who wants it, so that they can do, you can do your own budget allocations. And so what you do when you're doing this is, whether it's you have a separate spreadsheet, whether you use one of the applications that's out there to help with budget, you'll know how much money is in your account that has already been allocated. And that's the important piece, because I might look at my account and say, oh, I have $150, but I really don't, because 100 of that has allocated for the savings that has to be done at the end of the month, or it's allocated to go towards that car payment that's due, my rent, or something like that. So you have to be mindful of the names that you gave your dollars, so that you don't get happy thinking you have some extra. You gave it names, so you have no extra. We came to 0, right, folks? Okay. So what can I do to balance my budget and save money? Because if I put my budget together and at the bottom, instead of being 0, I'm a negative $400 or negative $200. What can I do? Reduce your expenses. Find out where your money is going and reduce those unnecessary. So if I'm, and I know this bothers us women, but if I'm going to the salon and it's $85, I might have to cut that. I might have to go just once a month and not twice a month. So we have to look at, how can I reduce? If I have cable, Netflix, and all of that, how much of that can I cut? do I have to, what do I have to give up to get to where I want to go? And I like to say to people, it's a short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain. I'm going to sacrifice today to get something later. Another way is to increase your income. Get a part-time job long enough to balance the budget. Maybe I had a real high expense and now I'm trying to pay it off. Well, I might have to do something that I really hadn't planned to do, but because I have that financial goal, I'm ready to do it. Find new money. The first way that a lot of us can find new money is stop getting that tax refund. Often in our culture, we have been taught, use it as a savings account. So we don't claim the exemptions that we're entitled to claim. We wait until February, March of the following year to get a refund. Well, I might need that money based on where my budget is. I need that money every month in my paycheck. I can't afford to wait. And I'm just allowing the government to have my money for a whole year and they're not even giving me any interest on it. And so that's a good way for us, you know, and we often would say, well, I'm going to save my money and when I get my tax return, then I'm going to go buy this. Well, how do I go buy that if I've already got debt? I need to get rid of my debt. Raise your insurance deductibles. Are you still paying, or do you have a $100 deductible for your car insurance, a $100 deductible for your house insurance? Maybe you can raise those to $500. That would reduce your premium. That's another way you can save, find new money. Get rid of your home landline. You know, some people need them because of security systems, but if I don't need that, so just look at where you're spending your money and what could potentially be cut. Another way is we spend a lot of money at ATMs getting money out. And what happens is they'll tell, we are mandated to take out a minimum of $10, $20. I only needed $5. So now what do I do with that other 5 or that other 15? Then I forget where it went. And so if you look at, you can do a combination of these things to find areas and find money to balance your budget. We talk about breaking the cycle, but these are the way that wealth builders build wealth. They tell their money where to go. They balance their checking account monthly. They don't leave anything out of the budget. And you must do and live the budget you created. So if I said I could do this, then I need to stick to it. And doing so, like we talked earlier, we're telling our money where to go and we're able to discover how we're really spending the money that we have. So that's, budgeting is really the first key to wealth building. When we talk about budgeting like millionaires, millionaires really live below their means. They don't spend money like we do. They, you know, now you will have some, because we all know people who are really, you know, we've seen so many instances where millionaires are broke, especially some of your athletes. They had a lot of money, but nobody taught them how to handle the money. And so now at the end of their career, they don't have anything. And so if you reach the position in your budget and just start chopping things that are unnecessary and live below your means, that means I have that money to put away. And so that's a hard concept, especially when we've got some bills and stuff. But even with that, I need to be living beneath my means. So if I bring home $100, the average person in Kalamazoo, for every $1 they make, they spend $1.25. So they're living above their means. And that's why we have this vicious cycle that we really have to get a hold of and help people through it. So the first thing I could say is live below your means. Have you determined what your financial goals are? Do I want to retire? And when I retire, instead of saying, well, I'm retired, so I'm making less, do I want to retire and say I'm making more? And I can only retire making more if I'm saving. And so if I don't know what my financial goals are, it's going to be very difficult for me to achieve them. And I just say, write it down. So we have all heard the concept of SMART goal. Write a specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and put a timetable to it. Can I be out, if I have, want to, the question that was raised earlier, my emergency fund, if I only have $500 in my emergency fund and I want to get it to that 1,000 that I spoke of, how can I do that in the remaining 9 months of 2022? I can save X number of dollars per month. Is it smart? Yes. Is it realistic? Yes, because I have redone my budget and see in my budget where I can do that. That means it's attainable. And I've said I want to have it done by the end of the year. So that's a good place to start with a financial goal. If you want to buy a major purchase, once again, come up with a financial goal. Wealth building. If there's anybody on here who does not want to build wealth, then let me know your secret to living that long, good life that you want to have. We need wealth in order to do that. I don't know, I don't think that money's just going to drop out of the sky. When we tell children, it doesn't grow off trees. So we have to be instrumental in our wealth building. We have to decide, how much do I want? And as we're blessed with more birthdays, we really need to think about, what does our retirement look like? How do I build that wealth to break the generational cycle? I need to build wealth so that not my son, but his children are the beneficiaries of me. I'm leaving something for him, for them. So I'm building wealth for the next generation. And that's how people who don't look like us, that's how they often will do. They're building wealth for the next generation. And we need to start thinking about that. Savings. So, and we're going to do that through saving. And savings always has to be a priority. I don't care if you say, I only have $5 left at the end of the month, then that's $5 that needs to go into savings. Because we deny ourselves savings because we say we don't have enough. If you get started, you'll be okay, but it's just getting started and making that initial deposit. And one of the things that we have to think about with savings is, it's not, if I have money out of my check that goes into a savings account, that's just not a temporary deposit account that I'm going to take out at the end of the month because, oh, well, it's in my savings. No, it's there for a purpose, not a revolving door or revolving cycle on a monthly basis. One of the things we have not been taught is to pay ourselves first. We think I got to pay all the bills, but guess what? If I pay all the bills and I'm broke, and then I call the creditor that I paid and said, I can't pay this month, I had an emergency, they don't care. So that's why we have to take care of ourselves first. Give, save, and then pay your bills. You follow that, then you're never going to be broke, but you'll have something. I'm not going to say that I can save $300 a month and I have a $300 a month car payment, because if I have a $300 a month car payment, then I need to save to get rid of that car payment so that I don't have any debt. Any questions before we go into the section on savings? Anything in the chat?
No additional questions in the chat right now.
Oh, there is one. Yes, savings is an expense you would add to your budget. So you're going to have a line item, and you'll see in that sample budget that I give you, you're going to have a line item that's going to say savings. And the best way to do your emergency savings or another savings is to put it in an account that you don't have easy access to. Don't have it tied to your main checking account or where you do that business. Often I'll tell people, have your savings account somewhere where you can't get a debit card, that you actually have to go in to do the transaction. Because if I have a debit card, ATM card, attached to my savings, that makes it easy. I need to, once again, think about that 24, 48-hour rule. It doesn't need to be easy if I'm going to my savings. If I have an emergency and I have an emergency account, that's what it's for. Tires are going to go, brakes are going to go. Those are emergencies that we need to plan for and not have to create additional debt because I wasn't ready. So these are the basic reasons to save: emergency fund, unexpected things do happen, purchases, instead of borrowing to purchase, pay cash. And the one that we really want to focus on is wealth building, but discipline is the key ingredient. I can't have everything I want today. I have to delay that gratification. Right now, we want instant gratification, but we pay the price for it. Our choices that we make today will impact us 10, 15, 20 years from now. And they have. And the sad thing right now is our students, they're making choices today to get student loans that will impact them for the rest of their lives. Because no one told them. I had somebody say to me, well, I just took out some extra money because they said I could. I said, so you borrowed money to go further in debt just because the person at that desk said you could. We have to know what our budget is and what we can afford. So this is just a little example here to show the power of compounding interest and why we want to save. Kathy, she started saving at age 19, $2,000 a year. Stopped 8 years later at age 26, didn't put anything else in. At the age of 65, just because she put that money in, which as you can see was $16,000, she had $2,288,000 just because of compounding of interest. This is what we're missing when we don't save. This is how people build wealth. They put it away and let it go. Now, Deborah waits until she's 27 to start. And at the age of 65, she only has $1.5 million, but she saved from 27 to 65, $2,000 a year. So the difference in that 8-year gap ended up costing $756,000. So $750,000 just based on time. And that's where we are so far behind. We miss that time. There's you'll hear people say the time value of money. This is a reflection of that time value, where the delay costs more in terms of what I would have gained, as well as what I had to put into it. And so we like to talk about PIG, passive income generator. This is passive income. While Kathy was sleeping after the age of 26, she was making money and didn't have to do anything for it. That's passive income. We all should be at a state where we're getting some passive income. When I wake up in the morning after a full night's sleep, I made more money. That's what our goal is. And that's how we build that wealth. That's how we become like millionaires, by that investing, the compounding of interest. This is just a little example. Daily decisions we make that have a huge impact. We go buy water. We buy 2 bottles of water a day. And looking at the course of somebody working 35 years, if I had invested that $60 a month for that 35 years, I would have had $130,000 just for that water that ran through my body. Gourmet coffee. I don't drink coffee, so I always just say the flavored water. But people spend money on that, $5 a day, that's $150 a month. If I invested that, it's $325,000 that I could have had just by giving up that flavored water. So we have to look at it, is the cost worth it in the long run? Was it worth it? And these are daily decisions that we make. Going out to lunch. Yes, you may be able to afford to go out to lunch every day, but is it really the way you want to spend your money, knowing what type of a financial impact it could have on you? And yes, I'm gonna go once a week or so, but do I need to go every day and spend $8, $10? Nope. Last year, quite a few people received stimulus checks. Most of them got it. They got up to $1,400 per child, $1,400 individually. The majority of people did not do any investing with that, even if they didn't need it. So I just did a little exercise. If you received a stimulus check for $1,400, and then you had $20 that was extra in your budget, and you just put that into that account for 25 years, that's $6,000. You would have contributed $7,400, but at the end of 25 years, you had $27,000. That stimulus was free money. And for those who had a lot of children, and they went out and they bought tennis shoes and TVs. You couldn't find a TV last year because everybody was out buying TVs with their stimulus. These are the things that we really just have to think about. How are we spending our money? Am I making a wise decision? And often we're not, because I'm looking at it in terms of my immediate gratification. I got some extra, and so instead of saving it, investing it, I'm going to spend it. And investing, we don't have to have a lot of money to start investing. There are some brokers who will work with you and say, okay, well, this company wants $250, but if you send me $50 a month, then we can get you started investing. So instead of always thinking it has to be big, let's look at and research and find out where I can do something on a smaller scale to get me started. We just need that discipline in getting started. And so when we talk about beginning savings, I like to say you may feel poor today, but tomorrow you'll be rich. And so if we keep that in mind, that tomorrow's going to, yes, you're going to hear somebody say tomorrow's not guaranteed, understand all of that. But if I have it and I leave here, then I built that generational wealth because it goes on. And so that's the way that I like to tell people, I disagree with you. You can't spend everything you have for today thinking you won't be here tomorrow, because when tomorrow comes and you don't have anything, then who do you think is going to take care of you? And that's where we run into problems. And if you talk to somebody at a funeral home, there are so many people, and we see it now, GoFundMe. Is that the legacy that you want to leave for your family, that they had to do a GoFundMe just to bury you? No. And see, we buy insurance for the wrong reasons. We buy insurance to bury us, but if I don't have children who are depending on my income, I don't have an obligation to leave somebody an insurance policy, not when I could be investing that money on my own and make more money. You can do self-insured, have enough money to bury yourself, and then you don't need life insurance. And see, we never think like that, because the man used to knock on the door with his little book, and we used to buy life insurance. I don't have life insurance. I don't need it because I can bury myself. And that's, so the money I'd be paying monthly to give to the life insurance company, I have it monthly to go in investment. And that's where we want to go. That's why we want to begin that savings. So now I got 10 commandments that I want everybody to understand. And since mine cuts off, thou shalt not wing it with thy finances. Thou shalt always live on a budget. Always. Not just right now, but always. A budget is necessary. If you're going to St. Louis, you know the map that you're going to follow, right? That's like having a budget. You said, I'm going to get on 57, 80, whatever. I'm following that direction. your budget will do the same for you. Thou shalt not spend more than they make. Without a budget, we have tendency to spend more than we make. Thou shalt not try to keep up with the Joneses. They're broke too. We look at somebody's house from the outside, but we don't know they don't have any furniture inside. They just bought more house than they could afford. And we're looking up to that and wanting to be like them. We buy clothes because we think we're going to impress somebody. And then our feelings are hurt when nobody even comments on that new outfit that I spent more money than I had in my budget for. Thou, excuse me. Thou shalt always get godly counsel regarding major financial decisions. I cannot go get a mortgage and allow that person who's sitting behind that table to tell me what I can afford based on my income. I need to know what my income is. I need to know what my budget is, because often people are going to say, well, you've got more money. You can buy this. I don't need more house. Thou shalt not buy on impulse. Remember the 48-hour waiting period, 48 hours. Leave it, decide if you're going to go back. If you go back and get it, then apparently you felt that you really needed it. But let's not do this impulsive buying. And especially when we do impulsive buying because we're out shopping with someone and they're telling me I really need to have that. Well, unless they're willing to offer to buy it, then they can't tell me how to spend my money. Which everybody is real good at telling you how to spend your money. Thou shalt practice delayed gratification. You don't have to have everything now. How many of us, if we're honest, have clothes in our closet that we bought that still have tags on them because they were on sale? If it's on sale, it's not any good if you don't need it. But it's just nice because I saved this money. And then I can tell you, oh, I bought a $100 dress for $29.99. Still in the closet, but that's $29.99 that I could have spent somewhere else in my budget. Thou shalt balance thy budget, even if it means reducing thy lifestyle. Thou shalt stay away from people, places, and things that can cause overspending. There may be some of your friends that you can't go shopping with because it causes you to overspend. Thou shalt use the envelope system or some other system to track spending. And you've heard people talk about the envelope system. It's where you take maybe your grocery money and you put it in an envelope. That means I budget, in our example, I think we had $380 a month budgeted for groceries. If that's the case, then each week I only have a certain dollar that I can spend on groceries. If I have cash, and I know people don't like to use cash, carry cash, but if I have cash, I'm not going to be embarrassed when I go over that. But if I have my debit card, I'm going to swipe it and I went over $20. But where am I going to make that $20 up when my budget was already at zero? And so that's why, and there's a lot of different software out there now that you can use to track your spending rather than using an envelope system. And 10 is most important. Thou shalt learn to be content with whatever you have, whether it's more or little. And if you reach that point of contentment, then everything else that we've talked about really isn't going to impact you because I'm content where I am. You know, be able to live in your own skin. That's why we say, don't try to be like the Joneses, just be who you are and be content with it. And once you're there, it's a piece that you'll say, hey, why did I stress over that before? I don't know. So we're looking at the 10 commandments of budgeting and savings. A commitment is a decision without an exit plan. Often we make a commitment, not realizing that I made the decision and because I committed, there's no exit. We find a way to make an exit out of things that are uncomfortable for us. So my question to everybody today is, are you committing today to do your budget? Are you committing today to save? Are you making that commitment? And if so, make it with knowing there's no exit plan. I'm saying that I want to change how I handle my finances. Unfortunately, we've got PhDs around. No one ever taught them how to handle their budget. Our athletes, I talked about those earlier. No one taught them how to budget, which is why now some of them are broke. They're broke without an education because somebody took them to the basketball court and says, hey, I want you to play ball for me and I'm going to pay you this money. But that individual didn't tell them how to handle the money. And they had a large entourage with them wherever they went, and now they're broke. I would hope that for those who are on today, that would not be the commentary that we would be having a year from now. So once again, are you committing today? Thank you.
So now we can have the Q&A session. If you have questions, please enter them in the chat.
Okay. What made me focus on finances? What really made me do it is I was trying to teach my son some lessons because nobody had ever taught me. And I didn't want him to have debt when he went to college. And he got a credit card, just like everybody else, MNBA, whatever that company was back in the day. And I had been working on getting out of debt. And once he got that, I was out of debt. And he came to me and he said, Mom, if you pay this off, I'll never get into debt again. And because I had started financing, you know, in finance, and I was major in accounting, my concentration was accounting, that broke the cycle for us. And so because of that, it's made me want to help others because I know the freedom of not having debt. I know that freedom. I know because what happens is you can make choices. You know, when you're successful in that area, you can make a choice. I can't make a choice if I owe somebody $10,000 because at the end of the day, I owe $10,000. So if you say, well, why don't you buy something? I can make a choice to buy it or not to buy it. And so it gives you that freedom. And that's why I focused on it, because I wanted to break the cycle because nobody ever taught me. I did just like everybody else, ran up credit card bills. Even when I was in school, didn't have any money, but it was okay. I'm going to be okay. I can pay. But then when you realize how much you pay for that, and that's why I said the choices that we make today, we'll pay for them for several years down the road. And it's never too late to start. Never too late to start. We think, oh, I messed up. No, you haven't, because you're still here today. So you have an opportunity. But I always liked numbers because I was that nerd. You know, I in a room working by myself. It worked fine for me. Numbers do it. You know, you're in accounting and they talk about the hat. Hey, yeah, it's okay. Can you speak on how we can start to learn about investing to make our savings grow? Yes, my encouragement to people there is to find an investment advisor who has the heart of a teacher, who will explain things to you so that you understand them, and somebody who's not really looking to make big bucks off of they're going to make money because they've got a fee, but I'm not going to pay extra, fees that I don't need to pay. So there are a lot of advisors around who have that talent. I have one that I would recommend, and I'll recommend it to you all if you want. I work with him. I have a lot of people who are working with him because he has that heart of a teacher. He wants to make sure you understand. He checks in regularly. Okay, Kathy, the market's kind of volatile right now, but don't worry, you're okay. And so those are the things you want to hear. You don't want somebody handling your money who you don't hear from until all of a sudden you get a statement and you're like, wait a minute, what happened? You want that communication. You want to be able to send an email. You want to be able to feel that I can refer somebody to them. You don't want somebody who's going to give you some advice that's not going to help you in your long-term goals. And so it's doing some homework to find that right person. Because there are some people that I have said, I really can't help you because you're not at a position that you want to be helped. You're not willing to do some of the things that you need to do. You're sitting here in my office crying, telling me I'm mean. That's your problem. You came to me. So you needed the help. I didn't. I'm okay. Well, you're mean because you won't let me spend my money. Well, what do you want to do then? You can't have it both ways. And so you look at that. So that's kind of how I do that, Darlene. And then I do watch it grow. And then I do have an account that I play with. I play with stocks. I have some stocks that I'll play with, just buy them just because somebody said to buy it. I don't have that attached to what my advisor's doing. That's my play money.
Mhm.
And I've made some and I've missed some opportunities because I was waiting to see what was going to happen. The biggest one mistake I made in 2015, my son told me to buy Amazon. It was $257 a share then. And I didn't want to spend $257. Now it's over $3,000. It's like, okay, I've got 200, I could have at least bought one share and still made a lot of money. But anyway, okay, another question. How does a person know how many dependents to claim in order to balance their income in their check? Look at there is a tax calculator on the IRS website that you can use to figure out what your taxes are going to be. And then you check with your employer to see how many you're claiming. So use the tax calculator on the IRS website. That will help you determine what you need to claim to balance. Because really, we want to break even with our taxes. I don't want to really get a lot back, nor do I want to owe a lot. So we look for that middle ground. That's what you're looking for, is a balance. But when I hear people say, I got a $6,000 refund, I say, shame on you. There's no way somebody's going to have $6,000 of my money and I'm struggling. And we're proud of it, but it's like, okay, so you got the 6,000. What are we going to do with it now? Well, you don't know, but then before you know, it's gone. You made me okay with the vehicle. Okay, see, there you go. The vehicle refund checks are coming. Let's start investing that. That's a good way. You got 2 vehicles, that's $800. Put it away. You weren't expecting it. Don't go waste it. And that's what we have to do. I truly budget to have fun. So when I'm having fun, I'm not feeling guilty because it was in the budget. And for people who have grandchildren, we budget for them because we want to give them things that we necessarily didn't give to their children, to their parents. And we don't care because grandmas have no rules. If you want it, yeah, let's get it, but it's in the budget. And so another question, if you have to pay taxes, is it better to have more taken out or save to pay? I'm going to have more taken out because I don't know if I'm disciplined enough to save to pay. Plus, I would rather have it taken out because what I'm going to make in savings is not necessarily going to be worth me waiting. Because right now in our savings account, we aren't even making 1% or 0.5%. And Sister Rains put out there, listen to me, Sister Rains, Soror Rains put out there the link to the IRS withholding calculator. So it's in the chat. So anytime you get some unexpected money and you are thinking, think about, okay, if I put that away now, and I'm going to share this one thing and then my time is up and Darlene is looking at me. There's this concept that's called saving $1 a day. If I save $1 a day from the time that somebody is born, that's $365 a year. For 60 years, that's over $1 million. So when we talk about it really doesn't matter, yes, it does. $1 a day. And that's what I did with my grandkids. I started that. I saw that article and I started it. They'll be millionaires just by $1 a day. So when we talk about it, my investor takes $100 out of my account for them because he does it every quarter at $1 a day. I'm not losing anything. I didn't miss $1, but they're going to reap the benefits of $1 a day. So when we think we don't have enough, $1 a day isn't going to break anyone on this call. So I just encourage you, start now. Someone said they're going to commit. I'm committing today to do my budget. Yay. We have to. You know, we're powerful individuals. And we can be even more powerful with the wealth. We've got to build it. That's the equalizer, folks. Right now, and I'm going to say this, and because see, I get in this tangent and I get excited, but the net worth of African Americans is less than 60 something. I think we're at, right now, we're right around between 15 and 25,000. That's our net worth. That's what you said my life was worth because you didn't do anything. That's a sad commentary. When I've got a car sitting out there in my yard that I still owe $40,000 for, but my net worth is only $15,000, our priorities are skewed. We got to come out of that oppressive mentality and say, well, they wouldn't let me. No, forget, what are you doing? It's not about them. What are you doing? That's it. So, Darlene, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. That was good. Thank you so much for your commentary and letting us know how we need to be more mindful and more intentional about saving money and how we handle our money. So we've come to a time where I would like to request feedback for this presentation. I have placed, I'll send it out. I have placed a link in the chat that you can click on and you could get access to an evaluation that will ask about 7 or 8 questions. And we would like your feedback because we would like to know how we can provide more quality community events or programming to the community in the future. So we really would appreciate your comments. So the link is in the chat. All you have to do is just click on it. It will take you to the survey. You just fill it out and you just submit it. So if you could do that, we would appreciate it very much. One thing, while people are hopefully clicking on the link and filling out their surveys or evaluation forms, Kathy, I would like to ask you, do you want to indicate what forms you would like to share, and that if people would want those 3 forms that you were talking about, they could enter their information, their name into the chat, because I believe I could send that to them later.
Okay, the forms that are ready to be shared are the budget form, the budget calculation form. Those are ready to come out. I mean, so I can email those to Darlene and Darlene can get those to the participants. And then I do have a request on here to share the investors' information. I don't have his telephone number right with me, but his name is Seth Timmer. And I'm going to my phone just to get his, and he is out of Caledonia. And in just a second, I will have him for you. He's with ESI Financial, and his number is 866-583-8300. And his email is Timmer, his website would be timmerfinancial.com if you wanted to see that.
Sorry, Kathy, what's his name one more time, please?
Seth Timmer. I could have put it in the chat. I'm sorry. Everybody's trying to do 2 things and I'm talking. That was rude. I'll put it in there. I am sorry. Oops.
Kathy, I have a great job. I have a lot of grandchildren now. I have 7. And so this has helped me find a different way of possibly doing something different than what I'm doing right now. Because now it's getting, with 7, it's getting a little,
Expensive.
you know, you've always, I want to do the same for all, but you know, from ages 21 to 9 months or 6 months or whatever, it's a lot. So some different ideas. Thank you.
It's better than, all of those needless birthday things that you do and Christmas and things like that. So I'll share with you some other information on that, Benita, that will help as well.
Okay. So I hope everyone had an opportunity to at least click on the link and pull up the survey and fill it out. If you want to contact me later to get the survey link, please feel free. On the flyer, you have my chapter email address on there, economicdevelopment@dstkzoo.org. So if there are no further questions, I guess I can remind people to put their name in the chat if they would like the 3 handouts that Ms. Kathy Wortham will provide. So I will remind you of that.
And then, sorry, Darlene, just a comment on the survey. Excellent is 1 and 4 is 4, so it's reverse. So when you're completing the survey, make sure you select the appropriate category.
Okay. Yes, excellent is number 1. Thank you for that reminder, Latanya. Okay, so I guess I can do the closing remarks. I would like to thank everyone for coming. We appreciate your attendance and your interest in this presentation. And of course, I would like to thank our speaker, financial coach, Kathy Wortham. I would also like to mention, before we close out, the other members of the Economic Development Committee, their names. And their names are Sora Beverly McCall, Sora Penny Presley, Sora Collar Campbell, and Sora Kathleen Gleaves. And we also have Sora Adaya, who is working the TAC portion of this workshop. And I would like to acknowledge our president of the Kalamazoo Alumni Chapter, Ms. Tracy Morton, and ask if she would like to make any remarks.
Thank you so much, Sora Birch Clark. Good morning, everyone. This I felt was an excellent, excellent workshop. Thank you so much to Economic Development Committee under Sora Birch Clark's leadership, as well as our very own Sora Kathy Wortham, who is amazing. Now, the one thing, I'm not going to keep everyone because I know it's we're wrapping up, but there's 2 things I thought about as we were going through this. One, personal story, my parents who are now retired. And so the freedom that they have being debt-free and having their house paid off and to be able to really do whatever they want to right now. They don't need a lot because they're pretty humble people. But just to see them now versus when I was in college, they were, I don't know where the money came from for me to go to school, but I do know it was a struggle for them. And so that is why I always try to like be mindful, kind of remember that and try to pursue just what I do in excellence because I know the struggle that they had while they were trying to get me through school. And trust me, I was one that was trying to get out as soon as I could because I knew that the money was tight. I am so thankful to my parents for giving me that opportunity that they never had to be able to go to college. So that's one thing. The second thing is there's a couple of us in the chapter, we're doing kind of a saving challenge. So some of us are doing 2.5K, some 5,000, and then some of us are brave to take on 10K. So at the end of this year, we're going to celebrate because we're making a lot of sacrifices to get to that end point. So I'm giving up a lot of that flavored water, as Sora Wortham said, because I love that flavored water, but I've been really trying to kind of pull back on that because I'm looking at the end in mind. And so, and then lastly, what legacy can we what can we leave? I'm sorry. What can we leave to our families? That's important. I've seen a lot of families where it's been a struggle, right, when someone has passed, unfortunately, to try to get them buried. And it's so sad because you're already grieving because you've lost that family. So what another way to think about leaving a legacy? So I will stop. I have been completely inspired. I am going to get off here and try to look at my finances again. I think I need some work to do, but we always are very thankful for any of you to join us as we try to provide the programming to the community. What we do for the community means so much to us. And so thank you for coming. I will stop, and please continue to follow us. We're happy that you are. But thank you, Sora.
Yes. Okay. Well, I'd just like to thank everyone for coming to the workshop today, and special thanks for Sora Kathy Wortham and her presentation. And if that's it, that ends our session, our workshop today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.